Start our discussion on ascending colon. Actually, ascending colon is 12.5 centimeter long and it is extending from cecum to the inferior surface of right lobe of liver. Actually, liver's right lobe will be here. So, from the inferior surface of right lobe of liver, it bends to the left to form the right colic flexure here. Okay, and usually it is retroperitoneal and rarely it may possess an ascending mesocolon. So rarely means it's retroperitoneal. It has only one layer of peritoneum lining it. Anteriorly, it is related to coils of small intestine. So anteriorly, for example, if you see anteriorly like this, these are coils of small intestine like this, and here you have ascending colon. Okay, and the right edge of greater omentum also is present anteriorly, and also anterior abdominal wall, of course. So if this is anterior abdominal wall, I remove it, you will see coils of small intestine, you will see right end of greater omentum. Next you will be seeing the ascending colon. Okay, and posteriorly, if you talk posterior to ascending colon, you will have iliacus muscle, iliolumbar ligament, quadratus lumborum, transverse abdominis, and the diaphragm is at the tip of last rib. And also you'll have lateral cutaneous, ilioinguinal, iliohypogastric nerves, and also you'll have the iliac branch of iliolumbar vessels and fourth lumbar artery and right kidney. So what I'm talking, I think you're not understanding, so let me write them. So ascending colon, anterior relations, you have small intestine coils, you have right edge of greater omentum, you have anterior abdominal wall. Okay, coming to posteriorly, you'll have iliacus muscle. Okay, and you'll have iliolumbar ligament. Okay, iliolumbar, which is going from ilium to lumbar. Okay, and you'll have quadratus lumborum, which is a muscle, right? Quadratus lumborum. You'll also have transverse abdominis muscle, which is an abdomen muscle, right? And next you'll have diaphragm. And next comes lateral cutaneous nerve, ilioinguinal nerve, and iliohypogastric nerve. Iliohypogastric, iliolumbar, they're like coming from L1, right, of lumbar plexus. And also we'll have iliolumbar vessels. And of course, L4 artery, fourth lumbar artery, and right kidney. So these are all like the ascending colon relation, anterior relations and posterior relations. Now let's discuss about right colic flexure, or also called as hepatic flexure here. So right colic flexure lies at the junction of ascending colon and transverse colon. Here the ascending colon and transverse colon are like the colon bends forward, downwards, and towards the left side, right? In this flexure lies on lower part of right kidney, and anterior superiorly it is related to colic impression on inferior surface of right lobe of liver. So let me show this diagram. Okay, so in this diagram you can clearly understand what I'm saying. So we're talking about right colic flexure, right? So you can see it is related to inferior part of right lobe of liver. Okay, this part, right colic flexure. Now let us discuss about transverse colon. So transverse colon is 50 centimeter long. It is extending from abdomen from right colic flexure to left colic flexure. So left colic flexure will be here. Okay, actually it is not transverse, but it hangs low as a loop to a variable extent. Sometimes it also reaches the pelvis. It is suspended by transverse mesocolon. So you have transverse mesocolon on back side, okay? So it is suspended by transverse mesocolon, and it is attached to anterior border of pancreas and has a wide range of mobility. So mobility is more in transverse colon. And anteriorly it is related to greater omentum and also to anterior abdominal wall. Posteriorly it is related to second part of duodenum. You can see clearly second part of duodenum, and also to head of pancreas, because here will be the head of pancreas, right? So to the head of pancreas, and also to coils of small intestine, right? So now let us discuss about left colic flexure. Left colic flexure is also called as splenic flexure, okay? Why? Let us see. Left colic flexure lies at the junction of transverse colon and descending colon, and here the colon bends downwards, backwards. The flexure lies on lower part of left kidney and diaphragm. Actually here backside you'll have left kidney and here you'll have diaphragm. So there it is located behind the stomach and below the anterior end of spleen. So here you will have spleen. So below the anterior end of spleen, exactly here you will have the left colic flexure, and this flexure is attached to T11th rib in the mid axillary line by horizontal fold of peritoneum called phrenico-colic ligament. So what I am saying, from here one ligament will come. This is called as phrenico-colic ligament. By this flexure is attached to 11th rib by this ligament. This is phrenico-colic ligament, okay? And this ligament supports the spleen and forms a partial upper limit of left paracolic gutter. You know this is left paracolic gutter, so it forms the upper limit of left paracolic gutter. So remember, phrenico-colic ligament attaching from left colic flexure to the 11th rib, okay? Now it's time to discuss the descending colon. It is 25 centimeter long, extending from the right colic flexure to the sigmoid colon, okay? And it runs vertically up to iliac crest and then inclines medially to iliacus psoas major, reach the pelvic brim where it is continuous with sigmoid colon. The descending colon is narrower than ascending colon and usually it is retroperitoneal. Rarely it may possess descending mesocolon, means it is retroperitoneal side, lined only one side. So anteriorly it is related to coils of small intestine. Posteriorly it is related to transverse abdominis muscle, quadratus lumborum muscle, iliacus muscle, psoas muscle. So have total 4 muscles related posterior to descending colon, that is transverse abdominis, quadratus lumborum, iliacus, psoas major, that is the abdomen muscles and also the pelvic muscles. Next you have two nerves, four nerves like iliohypogastric nerve, ilioinguinal nerve, all are lumbar nerves, lateral cutaneous nerve, femoral nerve, genitofemoral nerve, okay? And there are also iliac branches of iliolumbaral vessels and testicular and external iliac vessels. So this many are related to this. So next coming to sigmoid colon. So here you can see sigmoid colon. It is 37.5 centimeters. It is extending from pelvic vein to third piece of sacrum, where it becomes rectum. It forms a sinus loop, hangs downward in pelvis over bladder and uterus. Occasionally it is very short and takes a straight course. It is suspended by sigmoid mesocolon and it is covered by coils of small intestine. So it is also having a mesocolon, that is sigmoid mesocolon. So finally let us discuss the clinical anatomy now. So let us discuss the clinical anatomy. So the first clinical you have is appendicitis, okay? So what is appendicitis? Is actually the inflammation of appendix, vermiform appendix. So because of this we need to remove that appendix, that is called appendicectomy, okay? So to remove the appendix. So actually the T10 segment innervates the appendix and also it innervates the umbilical region. So the referred pain of appendicitis will be in the umbilical region and also it will be in umbilical region and also it will be in right iliac fossa region. So the referred pain may be either in umbilical region or right iliac fossa region. Why it is in right iliac fossa region, and in because of peritoneum lining it. So you know the peritoneum, especially the parietal peritoneum, it is sensitive to pain but not visceral peritoneum. So because of parietal peritoneum of right iliac fossa, the appendicitis pain is also referred to iliac fossa region, right iliac fossa region. So this is appendicitis. So second clinical is McBurney's point. Actually, the McBurney's point is located in base of appendix. Okay, actually this here the pain will be coming whenever there is acute appendicitis. So in acute appendicitis, you'll get a pain in McBurney's point and also in the right iliac fossa. So I already discussed about McBurney's. Once let me show that picture. So here if you see, this is a McBurney's point, which is between the anterior superior iliac spine and the umbilicus here. This having a maximum tenderness in appendicitis. Here you can see some other remaining clinical points, like when the appendix is retrocecal, means back of the cecum, then the extension of hip joint may cause pain because appendix is distributed by stretching the psoas major muscle. So as it is retrocecal, in extension of hip joint only we may get pain in some cases. And pelvic appendicitis, the pain may be felt when the thigh is flexed and medially rotated because obturator internus is stretched. So this is pelvic appendicitis. And next coming to appendicular dyspepsia. This is a chronic appendicitis which produces dyspepsia resembling the disease of stomach, duodenum or gallbladder, and it is due to passage of infected lymph to subpyloric nodes which cause irritation of pylorus, and there is also history of earlier acute appendicitis. So this is appendicular dyspepsia. So by this we completed the clinical anatomy also of appendix, so of large intestine. So next we'll start with large blood vessels of gut.